Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Chiranjit Mishra and today I'm going to discuss the News Today news items of February 5th. There are 14 articles in total, 5 main news and 7 quick updates, one of which is placed in the news, which is Cuba. Let's quickly go through the headlines so that we can discuss the news items one by one. The good part is that many of the news articles are from Union Budget, the proposals. So 3 of the main news are from budget proposals. The first one is setting up of chemical parks as announced in the Union Budget. Then the second main news item is 20,000 crore for carbon capture. So it's a good direction in the direction, good step in the direction of carbon sequestration so that we can contribute to negative emissions. The third main news is about senior care. We need to have a skilled workforce to cater to the needs of the growing senior citizen population, because senior citizens are those who are above the age of 60 years. And now there is a term which is in vogue, which is called silver economy. That means goods and services related to their welfare. So that particular economy is scattered. So the Union Budget has taken a good step in the direction. The next important main news is about 8 lakh crore grant to local bodies. This is as suggested by the Finance Commission. The last main news is about Research Development and Innovation Fund, one of the funds established under the Department of Science and Technology for developing cutting-edge technologies. So this is also related to a proposal as mentioned in the economic survey called entrepreneurial state. That means state is going to actively take part in innovation and development. Now let's quickly go through the quick updates. The first one is a military exercise between India and Kyrgyzstan, which is called Khanjar. Second, India joins BRICS Center for Industrial Competencies. The third quick update is about Honorable External Affairs Minister's statement related to Critical Minerals Initiative. India took part in the ministerial meeting which took place in the United States. The next news is about guidelines or SOP, standard operating procedure related to identification of victims in those disasters in which there is a possibility of like mass fatality. That means many people die or can die. Just like in the case of that flight crash which took place in Ahmedabad. So bodies were charred beyond recognition and it was very difficult and a very sad thing for the families. So now we have an SOP which lists down the steps that can be taken to identify bodies correctly. Next is about SC Collegium. So 5 ad hoc judges had been added to the bench of Allahabad High Court so that cases that are pending can be quickly disposed. The last quick update is about the drying of a lake in northwestern Iran, which is called Lake Urmia. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the place in the news is Cuba. As you know, there are sanctions and blockade on the part of the United States, as a result of which Cuba's economy has been hurt. Now let's begin with the first main news. Chemical parks as proposed by the Union Budget 2026-27. So what are chemical parks? These are not recreational parks. These are industrial clusters, okay? And 3 such clusters have been proposed by the Union Budget. Why? For resource efficiency. Now, chemical factories, they require chemicals, then you need processing plants. Then while chemicals are processed, there are desirable outputs which we need and undesirable outputs which are pollutants. Now if there are chemical parks like chemical factories or industries scattered across a state, then it becomes very difficult to transport raw materials, okay? And the wastage, that is waste material that is produced, has to be collected from each and every unit. So it becomes a headache. So why not to have all the chemical manufacturing factories together? The raw materials can reach them, okay? Even if they are each other's competitor, it doesn't matter. Why? Because transportation cost is going to come down, because the same truck or same train will carry the required raw materials. And once the required chemicals are produced by the manufacturing units, whatever waste material is released, it's very easy to collect those waste materials if all the manufacturing units are situated very close to one another, okay? So as you understood, for example, if this is a park, okay, A, B, C, D. These are all chemical manufacturing companies which produce similar chemicals. Okay, so a train will carry goods and it will be very easy to transport raw materials to all these units. Had A been here, B been here, C been here, and D been here, just imagine, it would have been very difficult to transport raw materials. सब एक साथ रहेंगे, ठीक है? Similarly, whatever waste materials they are going to produce, they will also be easily channelized. Okay, these are like a rough diagram for the waste material produced. They can be easily collected. As you can see, this particular cluster, okay, similar plants, similar companies, although they are each other's competitor, but for cost efficiency, it's very important for these manufacturing plants to be present close to each other. Okay, and why is it important? Because India is one of the largest exporters and importers of chemicals and also one of the largest producers. India is the 6th largest producer globally of chemicals. Chemicals में आता क्या है? All sorts of chemicals, agrochemicals like fertilizers, insecticides, pharmaceuticals. Okay, these are all chemicals. Don't think that chemicals are liquid. Chemicals can be liquid, solid, both. Okay, don't think that chemicals only means those liquids that you see in a chemistry lab. Okay, even drugs are chemicals. Anything that is produced in a chemical reaction is a chemical. Let's quickly go through the salient features of this proposal. What are chemical parks? I have already answered. These are huge industrial clusters where different manufacturing plants producing the same chemicals are located together, and that is to bring down the cost input cost. Okay, as you have seen that budget proposes 3 new chemical parks. Okay, and 600 crore has been allocated for that purpose. And as I mentioned in the beginning, why there is a need for having such parks? Because India is a big stakeholder, not just in Asia, but globally. So cluster-based chemical manufacturing hubs, shared infrastructure, as I said, they're going to use the same facilities, same power connection also. One power generating plant is going to be used by all the manufacturing units present in that cluster. Chemical industry contributes 7% to GDP, which is a reasonable amount, and 8.1% to the manufacturing GVA. That means if we exclude service and agriculture, what remains? Manufacturing. Of that 81% GVA. GVA is the production level cost. If we add taxes and subtract subsidies, we get GDP. India is the 6th largest globally chemical producer and 3rd largest chemical producer in Asia. China is the largest producer in Asia, followed by Japan. Okay. What are the challenges? Heavy import dependence creates large trade deficit. That is why we need it. So that maximum amount of chemicals that India needs can be produced domestically. You will be surprised to know that India is a large exporter as well as a large importer of chemicals. So there is a net deficit. India import करता है $75 billion का worth chemical. $75 billion and exports $44 billion. So there is a huge deficit. 75 minus 44 is equal to $31 billion का deficit है. Okay. Other are focus on bulk chemicals limit value addition, and also the types of chemicals that India exports are not worth it. We don't sell or export. We don't export like very precisely required chemicals. For example, imagine for manufacturing sanitizer we need alcohol. India alcohol ही export कर देता है without selling sanitizer. Just an example. Why? Because if you add value to the chemical, you will earn more. So we lose our earning potential by selling chemicals in bulk. R&D investment only 0.7%. कितना कम है देखिए. Environmental clearance is very slow, bureaucratic red taping, and skill gap of nearly 30%. If you need 100 skilled personnel, we just have 70. Now what are the other initiatives that have been taken? Bulk drug parks boost API production. Okay, for drugs that means active pharmaceutical ingredients. PCPIR, this is petrochemicals and petroleum products. P stands for petroleum and petrochemicals. That means fertilizer, rubber, plastic, everything. Rubber, plastic, these are also chemicals, remember. They attract petrochemical sector investment. PLI supports KSMs and drug intermediates. That means depending upon your production level, you will get incentives. KSM means key starting material. The primary material, key starting material, the primary material that you need to manufacture a substance. Okay. So that's it. A question was asked not directly about chemical situation in India. It was about 3 pesticides used in agriculture. In India, the use of carbofuran, methylparathion, foret, and trizophos is viewed with apprehension. These chemicals are used as, it has already mentioned apprehension, that means with certain amount of fear. Of course, pesticides, okay? Most probably pesticides. Although no logic does apply here, you need to remember the names. Another question in 2020 with regard to fertilizers. Fertilizers are also chemicals. At present, the retail price of chemical fertilizers is market driven and not administered by the government. No, we have to take into consideration farmer welfare. So it is regulated by the government. So 1 is not correct. That way you can easily eliminate this one, okay? Then, sorry, 1 is not correct. This one you can eliminate. This one you can eliminate. 2 and 3, we have 2 and 3 and 2. Sulfur is a raw material for phosphoric acid fertilizer. It's correct. That means both 2 and 3 are correct. This one is correct, this one is correct. Elimination, you can easily eliminate A and D. And then C. Let's go through the second main news, which is about carbon sequestration, carbon capture. The theme is carbon capture, utilization and storage, CCUS, okay, CCUS. See, we have realized one thing, CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage. We have realized one thing, there are many industries which are going to continue to emit CO2 and other greenhouse gases. We cannot suddenly bring down the level of CO2 emitted by such industries. We have realized that. So what is the alternative? Whatever CO2 is released by those industries, we have to capture at the source, wherever they are produced, or there is another concept called direct air capture. A question based on direct air capture was asked in 2025. Many questions from this particular theme have been asked. It's important from the point of view of prelims, very important, and also mains. They may ask about the different techniques or what this concept is and what India has done. Okay, so how are we going to do it? See how CO2 is captured. CO2 is a gas. Gas can be dissolved in particular liquid, and for that we use different liquids called amines. Okay, these are sorts of organic compounds, and also we can use metal oxides. Usko CO2 lag jayega. For example, calcium carbonate. How is it produced? CaO plus CO2. Okay. This is called adsorption. When a solid material absorbs a gas, it's called adsorption, not absorption. AD. Okay. So these are the different techniques we're going to use. This is for your basic understanding. The technology that we're going to use is very complex, and that is why it is a big challenge. Theoretically, it's very possible, but to make it practicable, it's very tough. Why? It's a very complicated process, and CO2 aisa nahi ki it's like an insect or any bug which can be easily captured. It's a gas, okay? And you don't just have to capture at site where it is produced, but also in air, atmosphere. Let's see what the budget proposes. Budget allocates 20,000 crore for CCUS. Okay, 20,000 crore means close to, you can say, $2.5 billion. Close to $2.5 billion. US dollars, okay. CCUS aligns with National 2025 Roadmap because India has already submitted its Panchamrit. It wants to be a net zero economy by 2070, but the global target is 2050, target year, okay. 2070 as per Panchamrit, India's target. What? Net zero. but the global deadline is 2050. So this is well aligned with the 2025 roadmap. What we should already start to do. Targets power, steel, cement and refineries, including chemical industries. These are the largest emitters. About CCUS captures CO2 from large industrial sources. CO2 is compressed, transported for use or storage, because CO2 is a very light gas. It has to be compressed. If you apply a lot of pressure, the density of a gas increases. It becomes very easy to transport. Okay. Just like liquefied natural gas, under high pressure it is stored. And this CO2 is either used or it can be injected into the soil through porous rocks. It can be stored there below the ground. So that is a geological way to store carbon, CO2. Stored in geological formations underground. Technologies include absorption and cryogenic separation. This is another way. Cryogenic, lowering the temperature. So cryogenic means if there is a mixture of gases, every gas has its own boiling point and melting point. And if you cool a gas to very low temperatures, they become liquid. And because every gas has a different boiling point, so liquid gases will be produced at different temperatures. That is one way to separate gases. Just like fractional distillation, that was to separate by converting liquid to gases. This is the reverse process. Okay. एक हो गया fractional distillation. That is not used in this process. The reverse of it is cryogenic separation. Here gases are cooled. In fractional distillation, liquids are boiled. Okay. Also direct air capture and BCSS. This is like bioenergy carbon capture method. Okay. Supports enhanced oil recovery applications, because most of the CO2 are associated with fossil fuels. Okay. Now let's go through the need. Need is understandable, reduces emissions from heavy industries. Okay. Enables low cost hydrogen production pathways, supports global net zero goals by 2050, already discussed. 1 billion ton CCUS capacity needed by 2030. That means 10 to the power 12 kgs of CO2 has to be sequestered. Helps avoid tariffs like use CBM. See, European Union has set a new rule that whatever products are produced in which a lot of CO2 is emitted, a very high amount of tax will be imposed on those products. Why? Because it has an environmental cost included. So that's why to get rid of this tax, we have to make sure that the emission that was released during the processing of a material is also taken back. DST CCUS roadmap, Department of Science and Technology is involved, not Ministry of Environment. Phase 1 mein karenge research, as I said. First, here everything is on paper now. It has not been put into practice. Very difficult. Second, we will make hubs, but they will be just testing hubs. First phase is 2025 to 30. Only 4 years left. इसमें हम लोग करेंगे रिसर्च. 2030 से 35 में होगा hub testing. Those hubs in which CCUS is going to take place. Finally, it will be commercialized in 2035 to 45. 3 phase. Okay. इतना जान लो काफी है for your mains answer. In 2017 there was a question in the context of mitigating the impending global warming due to anthropogenic emissions of CO2, which of the following can be potential sites for carbon sequestration? Abandoned and uneconomic coal seams, yes, it can be injected into that. Depleted oil and gas reserves, okay, correct. Subterranean deep saline formations, this is again called blue storage, okay, because ocean is involved. So all the 3 options are correct. Option D. Several questions were asked. So it's a very important theme, don't skip it. What is blue carbon? As I said, it's a blue way to store CO2. Carbon captured by oceans and coastal ecosystems. Mangroves and everything, they have the capability to absorb CO2. This is called green carbon, forest and biomass. Okay. Then again 2023 there was one more question. You can pause the video and take note of the question. 2025 was direct air capture. Very important question. It can be used as a way of carbon sequestration, correct. It can be a valuable approach for plastic production and food, correct. Innovation, it can be a source of carbon for combining with hydrogen to create synthetic low carbon fuel, again correct. Next important main use is skilled workforce for geriatric care. As I said, as per 2011 census, India had 104 million senior citizens, okay. 2011 census, we are looking forward to 2027 census. So that was close to 10% of the total population. 10% of the total population kya the? Senior citizens, 60 plus, okay. And as you know, the traditional family setup is gradually changing because we are living in a globalized world. Even in rural parts of the country, it's no more there, okay. People are leaving their places, their villages for better employment opportunities. So old parents are left behind and they have to be on their own, which is very difficult. And also that there are several other challenges. We are young people, we are conversant with the modern technologies, for example, social media, apps and all that. They are, although literate, they lack digital literacy. Nearly 90% of the old population is digitally illiterate, okay. So these are the new challenges. Again, healthcare services are not available. And if an old person is living in a village, their also health infrastructure is inadequate. There are many challenges, as a result of which a decision has been taken and proposed under union budget that we need to have a skilled workforce of nearly 1.5 lakh people who would be ready to give all kinds of services to senior citizens, how to take care of their health, domestic help, and in a very modern manner. Earlier, the approach was scattered. We used to randomly hire domestic help, okay. They didn't have any certification. Now, anybody who is skilled in this field can show certificate, and thus his chances of getting employed will rise, because you will be a certified personnel to serve senior citizens, okay, and they are going to be skilled under national skill is NSQM, okay, National Skills Qualification Framework. So budget to train 1.5 lakh caregivers, and this is going to be part of an economy which is called silver economy. Okay, please note down, it's very important term, silver economy. If in the interview also asked what is silver economy, that part of the economy which deals with senior citizens, telemedicine services, specialized houses meant for senior citizens or other tools and equipments. So this everything comes under silver economy. Elderly population rising sharply by 2050. As I said, as per 2011 census, the population was 104 million. It is estimated that by 2036, it will be 230 million, 23 crore. And by 2050, you can imagine the number, maybe close to 300 million. Okay, 300 million matlab 30 crore. Most elderly have chronic health conditions like diabetes and other endocrinology related, hormone related diseases. Because diabetes is also hormone related to insulin. They can have thyroid, they can have knee problem, joint problem. Majority of elderly live in rural areas. Rural regions lack proper health infrastructure, family support systems weakening steadily. Okay. Now we are also promoting nuclear families. Okay. So in a way, we are indirectly abandoning them. Low awareness of rights and protections. Even if there are schemes and acts, senior citizens are not aware of that. And last but not the least, digital illiteracy. Although many of them are graduates or postgraduates, they don't know how to use modern devices, electronic devices. Okay. What are the initiatives already taken by the government? Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007. We also have a national policy on older persons, national program for the health care of the elderly, and last, senior care aging growth engine. So SAGE initiative is actually an indirect measure. This initiative is about promoting startups which cater to the needs of senior citizens. Okay, for example, if they're running a company which manufactures specialized products for senior citizens, the government is going to incentivize such companies. Okay, so startups dedicated to the needs of senior citizens. This is what SAGE initiative is all about. Silver economy, as I have already defined it, Who knows, the question can also come in GS paper, 2 mains or 3 mains. It also has a governance angle. Now the fourth main use is about local body financing. Again, this is a recommendation, not a proposal, as recommended by the 16th Finance Commission. As you know, local bodies, both rural local bodies and urban local bodies, they lack funds. Several times we have also discussed that these local bodies suffer from 3 problems, 3 Fs हम बोलते हैं, okay? Funds, functionaries, and functions. That means neither their power clearly defined, functionaries means they're not adequately staffed. Third, funds, the first and foremost thing. There are some urban local bodies in mega cities like Bangalore which are able to generate their own income by issuing bonds. That is the best way to get money from the public. But 99% of the local bodies in India, especially rural local bodies, they are not able to generate money. There are certain ways to generate money. For example, property tax. Property tax is something that it can be good tax-based revenue for the local bodies. But property tax milta kahan se? When properties are clearly demarcated, they are properly defined. And this is related to land-based documents or records. And as you know, which is a critical problem for the entire country, land records are a big problem. So Finance Commission has also recommended that land records can be maintained using GIS, okay, geotagging, so that there is no problem. And once properties are properly earmarked and demarcated, then local bodies can charge property tax. Okay, so several problems have been highlighted and several suggestions have been given by the 16th Finance Commission. Let's quickly go through. General recommendations, 8 lakh crore recommended for local bodies, and this is for the next 5 years, 2026-27 to 30-31. Challenges kya hai? Property tax, as I mentioned in the beginning. Local bodies heavily depend upon government grants from the state government, first center to state, then state will distribute between its various domains and areas. Okay, so vertical transferring में भी problem होता है and horizontal में भी होता है. So यहाँ पे क्या होता है? सेंटर से आता है स्टेट को, और स्टेट अपने अपने अलग अलग चीज़ों पे लगाता है. एक होता है PRI, पंचायती राज इंस्टीट्यूशंस, या फिर ULBs, अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज. यहाँ पे बहुत कम आता है. म्यूनिसिपल बोरोइंग्स अंडर 0.05% GDP. Only big municipal corporations like Bangalore Municipal Corporation, they are able to generate money by selling bonds. Bond markets underdeveloped for municipal finance. The last 2 points are related. Okay. Recommendations क्या है 16th Finance Commission का? Develop GIS based property tax systems statewide. That means geotagging. Okay, सब कुछ दिख जाएगा using satellite imagery. Grant split 60-40 between rural and urban bodies. That means if you are going to spend 100 rupees, 60 rupees will go to rural local bodies and 40 urban. 10,000 crore urbanization incentives introduced. Okay, that means depending upon the performance of the urban local body, you'll get this much money. The entire amount won't go to one urban local body, but a dedicated amount has been earmarked for that. Remove constitutional requirements linking FCs to SFs. See, there is one finance commission at the central level which is constituted under Article 280 and by the President of India. Okay? Article 280. And there are also provisions under Article 243I and 243Y for development or constitution of state finance commissions. Okay, but many states do not have the state finance commissions, and the role of the state finance commission is to make sure that enough funds are available for the local bodies. So यहाँ पे gap है. Niti Aayog to compile SFC best practices. Okay, for example, if a particular state finance commission is doing something good, that thing can be implemented at the pan-India level. Okay, you can use the articles. 280 is for the finance commission, which is constituted by the president at the national level. This also has a role to play. That's why it has suggested. but more precise steps can be taken by the state finance commissions, which are provided for under 243I, rural development, rural governance, and urban governance 243Y. Okay. Prelims में क्या आया था क्वेश्चन 2015 में, very interesting question. The fundamental object of Panchayati Raj system is to ensure which among the following: people's participation in development, political accountability, democratic decentralization, and financial mobilization. Of course, people's participation in development, grassroots level participation, ठीक है, ये तो correct है ही. Political accountability होता है parliamentary system में, when the executive is accountable to the parliament, to the legislature. So ये नहीं होगा. Democratic decentralization मतलब क्या होता है बताओ? Of course, democracy at the central level, at the state level, then for the grassroots level. ये भी correct है. So 1 और 3 correct है, 2 is not correct. ये हट गया, ये हट गया, ये भी हट गया. Through option elimination, you reached option C. You don't have to rely upon option 4. But financial mobilization is not a feature of Panchayati Raj system. It is a problem faced by the Panchayati Raj system. The problem that we just discussed. Financial mobilization. That means they don't have enough funds. So it is not a feature. It is a challenge faced by the Panchayati Raj system. Okay. 2020 mein there was a mains question. The strength sustenance of local institutions in India has shifted from their formative phase of functions, functionaries and funds to the contemporary stage of functionality. Highlight the critical challenges faced by local institutions in terms of their functionality in recent times. So functionality is basically power sharing between states, because there is also, it's also in question that there are many overlapping powers between the state government and the urban and rural local bodies. Okay, so you can, it's a 15-marker question, you can pause the video. A good way to begin would be defining urban and rural local bodies and the provisions in the Indian Constitution, Article 40, and then briefly after 40-50 words you can further the content and reach a suitable conclusion. The last important news is slightly difficult to understand because the terms are such. RDI fund open call. At first blush, it's very difficult to understand what this news is all about. This is, a few days ago we discussed a concept called entrepreneurial state. And this is something mentioned in the economic survey. That means a state which takes part in innovation. It doesn't wait for the private players to lead this movement of innovation. Taking direct part in innovation, research and development. So RDI fund is that, Research, Development and Innovation Fund. Research, Development and Innovation Fund. It was established last year. Okay. Now under this fund, what happens? The government is trying to attract those researchers or research companies which can be pure academic institutions or those institutions or projects in which both industry and academic institutions are taking part. The government, because as you can see, open call. Government ये बोलता है कि हमारे पास इतने लाख करोड़ हैं एक फंड में, and if your project is worthy enough, you can just approach us. You have to tell us what is the stage of your project. एक minimum stage होना चाहिए. ऐसा नहीं कि एक खाली फोकट आइडिया लेके आप आगे, सर I want to do create my own jet or I want to manufacture flights. Okay, so aeroplanes. बोले कि कैसे? ये तो ख्याली पुलाव टाइप का हो गया. There has to be something concrete. That is why there is a term used in this particular open call which is called Technological Readiness Index or Technological Readiness Level. TRL. आपका टेक्नोलॉजी कितना रेडी है? गवर्नमेंट वांट्स दैट द टेक्नोलॉजी शुड बी लैब टेस्टेड एटलीस्ट. इसको बोलते हैं कि लेवल होता है 1 to 9. जस्ट लाइक बेबीज ग्रो टू बिकम अडल्ट्स, देयर इज अ स्टेज ऑफ डेवलपमेंट. जो टेक्नोलॉजी रेडीनेस लेवल 1 होता है मतलब एकदम बेसिक आइडिया है, 9 मतलब एकदम एब्सोल्युटली रेडी है कमर्शियलाइजेशन के लिए. गवर्नमेंट हैज सेड TRL लेवल 4 होना चाहिए. 1 से 9 में 4. इट शुड बी लैब टेस्टेड इवन इफ इट्स नॉट फील्ड टेस्टेड. ओके, इतना अगर हो गया, we are ready to give you the money that you need at a very low interest rate and collateral free. You don't have to pledge any assets. Okay, so This is what the fund is all about. Let's go through. There are few other institutions involved. We'll discuss that, which is important from the point of view of prelims. And this is run by the Department of Science and Technology. Okay, remember that. First, context is first open call by Technology Development Board. Okay, about Technology Development Board क्या है? It's a statutory body established long ago, 1996. But this RDI fund was created last year, 2025. There are 11 members, comes under DST. Sole objective of commercializing the fruit of indigenous research. Okay, that means actively taking part in funding innovative technologies. Okay, especially deep techs. Deep technologies are those technologies which require a lot of money and lot of research, just like large language models. Okay, making them possible is not easy. To guide such projects, RDI was created. RDI fund was created in July 2025 under Anusandhan National Research Foundation. It's another statutory body. As I said in the beginning, there are several bodies involved. This is another body, okay? Anusandhan National Research Foundation, जिसके अंडर आता है RDI. Again, जो इसका पेरेंट बोर्ड क्या है? टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलपमेंट बोर्ड, TDB. सिग्निफिकेंस क्या है ओपन सेल कॉल का? एम्स टू कमर्शियलाइज हाई रिस्क हाई इम्पैक्ट डोमेस्टिक टेक. हाई रिस्क मतलब दोज projects which are very easy to ideate. In the form of ideas they're good, but to make them possible it's very difficult. Why? बहुत सारे risks हैं. एक तो होता है calculation part, making it theoretically possible. दूसरा होता है implementing the theoretical part. Okay. For example, you need lots of resources. ये तो कोई है नहीं कि you are going to create a small robot. Large language models के लिए आप अगर बना रहे हो, just an example, you need GPUs, and India is planning to create its own indigenous GPUs. नॉर्मल चिप बनाना अलग बात है, जीपीयू हैज अ टोटली डिफरेंट आर्किटेक्चर. ओके, फोकस ऑन प्रोजेक्ट्स एट टीआरएल लेवल 4 एंड अबव एज ए मेंशन्ड. ऐसा नहीं कि कोई बेसिक सा प्रोजेक्ट आप लेके आ गए टू गेट मनी. इट हैज टू बी ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजिकल रेडीनेस लेवल 4. फाइनेंसिंग ऑफ अप टू टोटल हाफ ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट. अगर 1 करोड़ है प्रोजेक्ट का कॉस्ट, द गवर्नमेंट विल पे यू 50 लाख रुपीज. कोलैटरल फ्री लोन्स 2 to 4%. ओके, and half of the total project cost. Okay, long tenures up to 15 years with moratorium. That means the government will also give you some time not to pay, in which during that time you don't have to pay anything. And nearly 191 proposals have been received from private sector. As I said, what are the focus areas? AI, energy, space, deep technologies, high risk areas. Okay, so that's it. Let's quickly go through the place in the news, which is Cuba. Cuba has been in the news because of again, the United States is behind it, because there is a blockade and sanctions on Cuba, which has hurt its energy economy. And it is also related to, because it's present in the Caribbean Sea, it's one big island very close to the United States. As you can see, this is your Florida. Okay, this is your Florida, United States है ये, and Cuba is very close to that. And this is your Central North America and Central America, Belize, Honduras and Nicaragua, very small countries. And Cuba's capital is Havana. Okay, तो Venezuela तो नीचे आता है इसका, and is the biggest island present in the Caribbean Sea. Largest island country in the Caribbean Sea. Major minerals क्या है? Cobalt, nickel, iron ore, copper, manganese, and major rivers are Cauca and Toa. This much you need to know. ये geographical location इतना important हो सकता है because of the Mexican Venezuela thing. But South America is more important than Central America. But इतना तो आपको आना ही चाहिए. अगर हवाना पूछता place in the news and country, you need to know it's the capital of Cuba. Quick updates में जाते हैं. Khanjar exercise between India and Kyrgyzstan, between the two military forces, and this time it is the 13th edition, if I'm not wrong. Yes, and it started in Assam. So military drills will be conducted, practice drills, believing that the terrain is natural and they're going to fight enemies together. Okay, that is what, just like mock drills for earthquake and all that. Focus on special forces interoperability. In case there is a joint operation that is being conducted by the armed forces of Kyrgyzstan and India, so that won't be new for them. It will be well tested, and it has been happening for the last 13 years. Urban warfare and counterterrorism. India's parachute regiment involved strengthens bilateral defense ties. Only thing you need to remember is Khanjar किसके साथ है? India, Kyrgyzstan. Okay, that's it. And Kyrgyzstan का capital क्या है? Bishkek. India joins BRICS Center for Industrial Competencies. Although India is a part of BRICS, but India was not a part of this particular body, BCIC, which is BRICS Center for Industrial Competency. It was inaugurated last year, and here it's actually a knowledge exchange platform. All the industrial leaders of India, Russia, China, they're going to share their technological expertise, because we are living in an era which is called Industrial Revolution 4.0. Okay. Industrial Revolution 4.0. और इसमें होता क्या? It is based AI based, big data, which backs AI, cloud computing. So these are emerging technologies, and without which we cannot make progress. So technological expertise and knowledge related to these domains will be shared on the platform. So India is going to gain a lot. Okay. It's like a very intellectual body. It will focus on manufacturing, MSME support, partnered with UNAID. This is the United Nations body dedicated to industrial development. So this BCIC is going to partner with UNIDO. Okay, together they're going to work. Strengthens international industrial cooperation. Nothing else. You just need to know that a body related to BRICS, India is not a part of it. If this statement is asked in the prelims, you'll mark it wrong. External Affairs Minister highlights the need for global cooperation on critical minerals. Again, critical minerals are those minerals which are important for economic development and national security. Okay, economic development and national security. Why? Because they are not present everywhere, like silica or sand. These are those minerals which are present in certain locations. Okay, in limited amount, and they can easily disrupt supply chains. If that particular region where critical minerals are available is war torn, or is undergoing some other problems, or may be affected by disaster, so it won't be able to export those critical minerals. All the dependent countries will be affected, isn't it? So the best way to avoid such a problem is to diversify your source baskets. And India also has substantial amount of RE. As I said, REs are also critical minerals. Okay. India has a national critical mineral mission also. 30 minerals have been listed. Okay. Not just REs, several minerals starting from bismuth, lithium. These are all critical minerals. And if you generate lots of partnerships, you'll have several options open. Ek supply chain effect hota tha, you can switch to the other. And the supply chain in the case of critical minerals is dominated currently by China. Okay. Which is India's chief rival. So ये एक ministerial level meeting हुआ था, it was proposed there, and it took place in the United States. Supply chain resilience. Resilience means despite global uncertainties, supply chains won't be affected. Cooperation for clean energy transition. For example, if you're going to use EV, you need lithium, you need cobalt, you need nickel. Strategic tech and source partnership. India engages global stakeholders. Main चीज आप समझ में आ गया. Please focus on national critical mineral mission also. Okay, there are 30 minerals included. UPSC may ask which of the following is not a critical mineral. Recently, coal was called critical mineral. Okay, coking coal. Guidelines for the identification of disaster victims. So what happened in 2025 May-June, after that flight crash in which all the passengers except one were dead and the bodies were charred beyond recognition. Then there was a bomb blast in Delhi a few months ago. Okay, bomb blast. Again, the victims were difficult to identify. Another petroleum industry related blast was there in Telangana. Again, bodies were like totally dismantled. So we need to have a standard operating procedure so that it becomes very easy to identify such victims who get victimized in such destructive disasters. Okay, so destructive that their bodies are beyond recognition and the families suffer a lot. To conduct their final funeral rites, you need the bodies. That is why the NDMA shared the guidelines what to do. For example, if you want to identify a body, DNA analysis is very good, but if the body is totally charred, it will be very difficult to get a desirable part for DNA analysis. That is why they've proposed a national dental data registry, because teeth and bones, they are very refractory in nature. They don't get easily affected. So we need to have all the data related to the dental or bone related data of passengers or the stakeholders. Okay. Forensic archaeology for long-term ID. Also, you need to, if everything is like all the data related to a particular individual are maintained, we can also assign an ID which can be universally used. Okay, and that ID is related to your biological details. Of course, there are challenges also related to privacy and all that. Post-disaster coordination systems. There are two terms, post-mortem and ante-mortem. Ante-mortem is before death, post-mortem is after death. So it becomes very difficult to identify the post-mortem data with ante-mortem. Why? Because the body parts are lost forever. The soft tissues are not there. So if one or two data, important data related to say dental or bone related data are matched with whatever data was collected before death, there can be cross-checking or tallying. Addresses gaps from major recent disasters. Okay. SC Collegium clears 5 ex-judges for Allahabad High Court. This is because of case pendencies. There are close to 70 lakh undisposed cases in the High Courts of India. And under Article 224A, there is a provision that retired High Court judges can be recruited as ad hoc judges. Ad hoc means temporarily for 2 years period. Okay. And this is to reduce case backlog. So you need the president's permission for that, and you also need to consult the judges before they are recruited as ad hoc judges, because they are retired and they must be continuing some other profession which is allowed. So their permission is important. Article 224A is for the appointment of High Court ad hoc judges. Okay, High Court ke judges. And while discharging the responsibilities as High Court judges, ad hoc judges are entitled to the same privileges as a normal judge, but the allowance will be different and it is set by the president. Last news, but very important news, Lake Urmia, which is drying gradually due to climate change. So a question about drying lakes was asked 7 years ago in 2018. As you can see the question, which of the following has or have shrunk immensely or dried up in the past due to human activities? Now there was a lot of debate as to what is the correct answer. 1, 3 or 1. Aral Sea and Lake Baikal both were experiencing this condition. They're gradually drying up, but UPSC gave only one answer, that is 1 only. It did not consider Lake Baikal for some reason, but there was a lot of debate going on between Aral Sea and Lake Baikal. Okay, so now it is Lake Urmia. Let's go back to that particular slide, which is present in Iran and northwestern Iran, very close to Turkey-Iran border. Okay, and it is drying up, climate change and agricultural water use. Okay, because most of the water of this lake body is transferred for agricultural use. So the dried up parts, you can see soil or salt, they actually get transferred from place to place due to dust storms. Okay, and revival needs sustainable water policies. That's it. So we have covered all the news items of February 5 news today. Now it's time to take the test, which is actually a set of 6 questions which will appear on your screen. Do take them, and lastly try to make the most of the digital current affairs of Vision Eyes. Wish you all the very best.